Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. After posting 3 Daoist energy practice related videos, I got some very positive feedback, and I'm impressed by some of your comments, which indicates that many of you understand this topic very well. For many years, I have been promoting the concept that in the internal styles, not only should we focus on martial arts, but also, if possible, Xiu Dao or other energy and spiritual related practice should be practiced as well. I believe that these knowledge are intertwined, and the integration of this practice will provide the maximized benefit to us. I also noticed that due to the nature of this practice, information about Xiu Dao is not very accessible, mainly due to reasons such as bad translation, confusing language, and other times just bad practice. Especially, the huge linguistic barrier hinders people from making substantial progress. Also, in my opinion, a lot of the practice and the philosophy has been mirrored by a lot of mythology and vague language. This is why I'm working to simplify, rationalize, and systematize the practice, so practitioners outside of China find it easy to follow. I have introduced some fundamental information for Xiu Dao in prior videos. Some of these topics seem simple, but they are worth clarifying. Without a clear understanding of these terms, one will never be able to find the right path toward the Daoist internal energy practice, or Xiu Dao. Topics covered in today's video include 1. Wind and fire, the power of nature. 2. Wind and fire, the nature of power. 3. Practice time. 4. Takeaways. Topic 1. Wind and fire, the power of nature. In my prior video, while introducing the history of Xiu Dao, I said that historically, Xiu Dao always borrowed terms from external alchemy to describe the internal alchemy practice. Yes, it may be very easy to visualize, but the problem is that it can be misleading to many people if they take these terms at face value. Literal translation does not help our practice at all. So, one of my objectives is to decode and explain these terms based on the standards of internal practice itself. Today, I will explain 2 important terms frequently used in Xiu Dao practice. They are wind and fire. Now, let's visualize the process of a typical external alchemy. You need to have a stove, a burner, and medicine. To check out prior videos for the meanings of these terms. So, what is the next step? You have to heat the stove and blow wind to the stove if necessary. If you have a chance to read the ancient documents about refining pills through the external alchemy practice, you would know that the fire level or the intensity of the heat is the key successful refining the pills. One has to manage and adjust the intensity of the fire correctly. If the fire is not strong enough, then the ingredients to make the pills would not be able to mix well. If the fire is too strong, then some ingredients will get charred or just evaporate. Both situations are not ideal to achieve alchemy refinement. Therefore, Daoist external alchemists apply different levels of wind to adjust the intensity of the fire in the stove in refining the pills in the burner. fire and wind are considered as the power of nature and used in the alchemy process. Introducing the external alchemy is not my objective, but looking at the concept in the external alchemy can help us understand the process of internal alchemy, or Xiu Dao. Topic 2. Wind and fire, the nature of the power. Before we talk about this topic, let's review the concept introduced in prior videos. Dantian. Dantian is the area to store energy. Different practices have their own definition of Dantian. Stove and burner. This is the place where we refine our energy. Sanbao, or three treasures, are the ingredients used for refining our energy. So, what is the next step? Well, it definitely is the time to heat the stove. Consequently, we have to know how to adjust the intensity of the fire in this process. There are 10 terms borrowed from the external alchemy and applied to the internal process. The question now becomes, what do wind and fire symbolize Xiu Dao practice? Basically, wind is the breathing and fire is the power of the mind. Let me elaborate them one by one. Please keep in mind that in Xiu Dao, we have to always remember that there are two types of sanbao, or three treasures. Those are the primordial and postmordial forms of Jing, Qi, and Shen. When we talk about the wind and fire, there are primordial types and postmordial types as well. So, please never forget this aspect in understanding Xiu Dao practice. Wind, or breathing, has two meanings. The first is the usual involuntary respiratory activity, done a little differently. The second meaning, however, is a little complicated. The first type of breathing is the same as the regular respiratory activity, but slower, deeper, and relaxed. Since it is managed by the mind, it is the postmordial breathing. For this type of breathing, one should relax the mind first, then slow down and deepen the breath. The second type of breathing always follows the first type. In other words, the first type of breathing is the gateway to the second. After the ordinary breathing slows down and deepens, a moment arrives where it becomes so slow that you don't even feel it anymore. At this moment, you may feel that the whole body itself is breathing, or you may feel it to be an uncontrolled energetic breathing that is called inner breathing, or 内呼吸 in Chinese. During this process, it seems as though the dantian itself is breathing, and this one has returned to the embryonic state. So, this kind of breathing experience is called 胎息 in Chinese, or embryonic breathing. This is the primordial breathing. It takes time and requires a lot of practice. But the real benefits start from this stage, the reverse flow of action. This is the key concept, and the embryonic breathing exactly reflects the concept which I introduced before. To summarize, the wind ingredients symbolize breathing, both regular as well as embryonic. Embryonic breathing is the goal we are shooting for. That is what provides the real benefit of Xiu Dao. Compared to the wind used in refining the external alchemy, the term wind used in inner alchemy or Xiu Dao has similar imagery but involves different practice in Xiu Dao. I hope this clarifies the meaning and the implication of wind in Xiu Dao. Having talked about wind, let's move on to fire. So, what is fire? Well, in external alchemy, fire is used to warm the burner in order to melt all the ingredients in the stove, so that impurities would be removed and the necessary material would be refined. As a result, the pills generated after this process is called elixir. We also know that in external alchemy, wind adjusts fire. Therefore, the ancient documents about this practice says that wind and fire work together to refine the elixir. So, what is fire in the context of internal alchemy? Well, it is the mind. Some documents use the term 神意. 神 means spirit, 意 means mind. Together, this term means spirit and mind. You may get the impression that the terms spirit and mind are one and the same in Daoism. However, that's not quite correct. Actually, the mind is the post-modal component, while the spirit is its primordial counterpart. The mind involves action like focus, concentration, or just attention added to a certain area or activity. On the other hand, the spirit is the primordial activity that is typically beyond our control, without training in Daoism. So, in Xiu Dao practice, the concept of strengthening the fire means to focus the mind on a certain area. Therefore, the way to adjust the fire in Xiu Dao is to apply the right type and the right level of mental activity in practice, in order to not only warm the Jing, Qi, Shen, but not overheat or burn them. Sure, this sounds abstract now, but it will get clear with enough time and practice. This is the way people have practiced it for thousands of years in China. When you apply a strong fire or strong focus or concentration on a certain area of the body or somewhere else, it is called Wu Huo or martial fire. Since Wu here means martial and Huo means fire, it is used to raise the energy level. Then, when the practitioner applies a subtle focus, then it is called Wen Huo or civil fire. Usually, it is used to keep the sanbao warm without burning it, which is the step that just preserves the energy in the body and refines it further. So, there are two terms here. One is martial fire and the other one is civil fire. In ancient times, the strength of the fire was considered a secret. To summarize this topic, we introduced two key internal terms, wind and fire. They are very powerful in practice. Like I said before, Xiu Dao is the process to refine the sanbao by applying the right combination of wind and fire in practice. Ultimately, wind and fire are physical, mental, and energetic activities, all the natural human abilities. This is why I call it the nature of power. Topic 3. Practice time. In today's video, I would like to teach you a simple method to practice the wind and the fire. Let's do it by continuing the last video's exercise. In the last video, I told you that you can just sit down after practicing Qigong exercise, which I introduced in my Qigong video series. Just sit down and close your eyes when you are ready. Then focus on the lower dantian area and maintain it for as long as you want. Now, let's start our exercise for today's topic. What you can do is to focus on the lower dantian area but intensify it a bit. However, make the breathing slower, longer, and more relaxed. You should not feel any pressure on your chest or the breathing it to be too slow. Your breathing should be inaudible even to yourself. Otherwise, it is not slow enough. When you notice that your breathing becomes very slow and relaxed, then you can gradually reduce your focus on the lower dantian to the point where you just maintain an awareness of it. This is considered the optimal level of focus. Remember, the term focus in Xiu Dao means relaxed awareness, not the same as focus in other fields. You can keep the same posture and work on it as long as you want, and longer is better. Then you can stop this exercise and gradually open your eyes. Topic 4. Takeaways. This video is very short, but many important topics have been covered. There are two types of wind and fire, primordial and postmordial. Wind is the breathing and fire is the mental force. A simple method to practice wind and fire has been introduced. So that's end today's video. Thanks for watching, see you next time, and happy practice!